Hey everybody, what's up? Salena here, Salena Baca Crochet. I love having conversations in my group calling Salena Baca Crochet in case you're not there yet. And I love to have these posts where I just say, hey, ask me anything about crochet. And sometimes I get some really great questions. So I was just about to type and reply there. And I thought, you know what? I haven't done a live chat like this in a while, and I used to do them all the time. And so I just felt really inspired to have a conversation and to answer all of these questions. So if you're watching live, come on over, say hey, say hello, tell me where you're viewing from. I just wanted to go through the questions in order and just answer them and just see what you guys think and just make it a fun conversation. I'm also going to reply to everybody who asked a question in my group after this chat. But again, I just thought this would be a fun conversation. So, all right, so here it goes. Again, this is all questions from my group Salena Baca Crochet. Can I post it here? Nope. Can I post comments? Yes, I can. Okay, so let me see if I can do this. And again, don't click over there now. Will this work? No, it won't work. Anyway, okay, we won't do that. Technology, yay. Okay, so I am going to reply to everybody in the group. If you're not part of my group, you can find a link here on this page, or as soon as this video is over, there should be a link in the video description. Just click there and come on over and join the group, okay? So I got some great questions. First question is from Sherry Richards. Thank you, Sherry. I love your questions. So she actually has a few questions in this post. So I'm going to read the whole thing, answer the first part, and then answer the second part, okay? So Sherry Richards says, do you have any simple tips for organization in small spaces and or, this is the second part, scheduling when your time is not your own? I know you had a schedule thing that went on a couple years ago, but I was unable to participate at that time. So 2 questions, right? So the first part of her question is, do you have any simple tips for organization in small spaces? Yes, I do. So before I answer that question, I want to say that I think that whatever space you have, and maybe you don't have a lot of space, that might need to coordinate with how you crochet, what your crochet lifestyle is, right? This is just my perception. This is how I do things. There's no wrong answer, right? This is just me. So whatever your crochet space is, it might want to reflect or you might want to think about whatever your crochet lifestyle is so you can reflect that crochet space. What do I mean by that? Do you just make a few projects every now and then? You know exactly what you're going to make and you know exactly what yarn you need for those projects. There you go. That answers that question. Then only get the materials for what it is that you're going to make, right? You don't necessarily need to just kind of hoard the yarn. Unless you want to hoard the yarn to kind of make a cool, unless it's decoration, you're not really going to be using it. I may or may not use that. I don't know. But if you've got a kind of crochet lifestyle to where you crochet all the things all the time, you love crocheting and it's a part of your everyday life. Maybe you just make things to keep, to give away, to sell, whatever it is that you do with them. You are using a lot of yarn. You're making a lot of things. So I would say that if you're worried about space or if you're worried about, collecting things that you may not use, if you're worried about either the resources that you have in terms of space or you don't want to spend your resources, your finances on things that you may or may not use, then what I would suggest is be really intentional about what it is that you're making and kind of map out what you're making. So again, we're talking about space, we're talking about smaller spaces. So maybe whenever there's a yarn sale, that's not going to be a good solution for you. You don't want to pick up yarn just because it's on sale, right? Just because it's on sale. And alternatively, if you need it for a project, then yes, get it. But if it's just on sale, that may not be a good choice for you. So my suggestion for that is map out what it is that you need to make. Map out what it is that you want to make. And if you map it out far enough in advance, then you're only really getting the resources that you need. And then you don't need to store them for long periods of time because you're utilizing what you need. And maybe you know, if you're always a month ahead of schedule, you know, the next month I'm going to be making these things, right? So I need these resources. And as soon as you finish one project, you can get resources for, you know, the project that you're going to be working on in a month. So that would be my suggestion for the organization in small tips. Organization in small spaces tip. Man, I really bumbled out, didn't I? Of course, there's lots of different storage solutions. Maybe you're like, well, I only have a closet. How do I organize better? Things like that. I know that there's lots of different ways we can answer that question, but my first thought was, well, let's think about what resources you need so that you're only crocheting what you need, so that you're only using what you need, and then you're replacing or getting whatever you need next. So that's the way I chose to answer that question. It's more of like a mindset kind of thing. Let me know what you think. All right, so Sherry Richards, again, she had 2 questions. So the second part of her question was, how do you schedule, or how do you create a crochet schedule when your time is not your own? And she's talking about a scheduling challenge that I did a couple of years ago called time blocking. So that's something that I'm so glad she brought it up, because it's something that I wanted to reintroduce again. It's something that I kind of come up with every, you know, probably once a year. I kind of have this conversation. So if you've never heard me talk about time blocking, here it is. Time blocking is something that I first heard of, I don't know, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago. I was reading a book, and I don't even remember the name of the book or what it was. I don't remember the main idea of the book, but there was something in the book that I got, right? And it was in reference to time blocking. And I like to use time blocking, and really that's another kind of mindset, lifestyle kind of thing that you do, right? So how do you create a schedule when your time is not your own? Well, what time blocking is it really just kind of basically outlines, let's say, a 24-hour day, right? Let's talk about it on a day-to-day basis, okay? And then we'll expand that and things like that. Hey, Sherry, I'm answering your questions right now. Good questions. Good to see you here. So every human being, we have 24 hours in a day, right? That's it. We have 24 hours a day. We have 7 days a week. We have, 12 months in a year. Everyone has the same amount of time. So how do some people seem to be more productive than others? I don't like being under the mindset of, I'm going to work 23 hours a day. I don't want to be in that mindset. I want to be much more intentional, and I want to be in control of my time, but I also don't want to overwhelm or overwork myself. So when I first heard about time blocking, it made a lot of sense to me, because time blocking, I think, answers a few questions for us. How do I do everything that I want to do? And then how do I not get overwhelmed? And whenever you implement time blocking essentially says that I'm going to do only these things in these periods of time. So it essentially says that multitasking is baloney, which I always thought you have to be a multitasker. And if anything, I kind of prided myself on saying that I can multitask. Of course I can multitask. But it's really kind of a farce to say that you can multitask, because when you're doing multiple things, you're not doing any one of them to your best or fullest potential. And we could make a few arguments like, well, I can do X, Y, and Z all at the same time. Yeah, but you don't want to live your life that way all the time with all the things. So for example, whenever I'm crocheting, because that's what this is about, how do you schedule your time when it's not your own, especially to incorporate crochet in meaningful ways? How do I have a crochet business and make crochet things and write crochet patterns and still be a mom and still be a wife and still run a household and go grocery shopping and make dinner? It's all about having specific blocks of time that are dedicated to only that thing. So if I want to incorporate crochet into my life in meaningful ways, I literally have to block it out. And again, everybody has the same 24 hours. So arguably 8 of that is sleeping, right? And then an hour of that is eating. So you just kind of go through your day and say, what do I need to do? What do I have to do? What do I want to do? And then whenever you block those things, you make sure that that is the main focus of whatever that time period is. Anyway, that really made a difference to me. It's something that I like to implement, because it makes me feel like whatever I need to do, I'm doing it with intention. I'm very present whenever I'm doing those things, and it makes me feel like I'm really enjoying whatever it is that I'm doing. Do I multitask? Yeah, sometimes I make dinner and I'm on my phone checking my email, and I'm making a grocery list, and I'm trying to listen to my son, and I'm playing a game, and I'm taking the dog out. And in those times, I just feel clouded and overwhelmed, and I don't want to live my entire life that way. So if we're talking about intentional things, that's what I do. It's called time blocking. And I really I had entire classes on that. So I'm going to bring it back. It's something that I haven't done in a while. So I was really glad that you asked that question, Sherry. And hopefully my long rambling answer right there made a little bit of sense, but let me know what you think. Okay, I'm going on to the next question. Again, I'm answering questions that were posted in my group earlier today. I'm just kind of going through those and answering them. So the next question I got is from Carrie Webb. And Carrie says, how can I get the height to match gauge? I'm usually too short when my width matches perfectly and not mess up my width in the process. So I like this question because I actually hear it a lot. And I've got a few pieces of advice to give so that we can get closer to gauge, especially when size matters for a particular pattern, okay? So first and foremost, if you're following a pattern and you want the size to match, it's best to start with a few things. Start with the same hook, start with the same yarn that the pattern specifies. So if the pattern says I use Date Night from Lion Brand yarn and an eye hook, and you want to make the exact same thing, start with that. You might need to start with that yarn and that exact same hook size. Because essentially, whomever wrote the pattern, they're telling you what their stitch and row math is. Okay, there is no universal stitch and row math. It's whomever is writing the pattern, right? So you're trying to match their stitch and row math because they made the thing. So I do hear this a lot, to where your stitches, the width, you can get that gauge, right? And really, that might be the most important gauge to get. It depends on how the thing is constructed, right? Is it in rows? Is it in rounds? How do these pieces come together? You know, typically I feel like that's the most important thing, right? You need to make sure, again, depending on the thing, that matches. But then there's also row height. And sometimes people say, you know, my rows are just a little short. So again, same hook, same yarn, and then you can make adjustments from there. If you're substituting yarn, then if you're not meeting stitch or row gauge, it might be because of the yarn that you use to substitute. Even if they're both equally worsted weight 4 yarns, sometimes they're not exactly the same. They're not going to stitch the same. It could be your tension. So maybe you need to kind of loosen your tension or tighten your tension. But even then, I kind of caution people against doing that, because your tension is your tension, right? So, you know, to get a tighter stitch, maybe go down a hook size. To get a looser stitch, maybe go up a hook size. So those are some things that you can do. I have heard some people say that there are these different techniques and methods to, you know, alter your stitch height to make it taller or shorter. I don't pay attention to those too much, just because I feel like it seems like it's too extra, right? I don't really want to alter the fabric or the stitch that I'm making. I really just want to, you know, get as close as possible in terms of what the stitch or the row math is. So if you are coming up a little short or a little big, it really just depends on what you're making. Is it the kind of project where you can just omit a row, add a row as needed? And if it is, then that's a pretty simplistic fix. So that's my advice to you. That's what I have to say about that. Let me know what you guys think though, okay? All right, next question is from Ellen and Taya. And she says, how do you keep your tension consistent? I tend to start out with looser tension, which gets tighter as I go on. You know what? Same. And I think that there is no magic one size fits all. This is just how it works. Instead, I want to talk a little bit about tension, what it is, and why it's different. And that way we'll at least have a better understanding for, you know, better ways to kind of combat that and come up with something a little more even and uniform. So first and foremost, stitch tension. The more you crochet, the more even and uniform your stitch tension is going to be. So that could mean that maybe you just started crocheting and maybe it looked like this at first. Now a month, has gone by and now you're more like this, right? I don't know what that means, but I felt like those hand gestures really kind of summed it up. So again, the more time you've been crocheting, the more even and uniform your stitches will become. The more fluid your motions are going to become. So you're going to be thinking about it less, and you're going to be doing it with more intention and more purpose, and it's just going to be much more graceful. Okay. So even with that said, even if you've been crocheting for 50 years, if you skip a couple days, you might have to kind of get back into it, right? So what I'm trying to say is that the more you do it, the more even and uniform your overall stitch tension is going to be, right? But also I will say that because you're using your hands, because it's muscle memory, there are a few things that are going to affect your tension and your consistency. So for example, I personally have been crocheting for 35 years. Sometimes I crochet every single day. For example, I was just making a blanket. I made 2 blankets last week. My first rows are a little off. They just are. They're a little off. Maybe they're a little bigger. Maybe they're a little shorter, right? But I've been crocheting long enough that I kind of loosen my tension whenever I'm starting that, okay? If it's a stitch, but they were really basic stitch patterns that I was working with, so I didn't really feel like I needed to make a swatch or practice or anything like that, before I went into the actual thing. I did make a swatch for both of them, but that was, anyway, I'm getting off the point now. When it's a fabric that you're not used to, when it's a stitch you're not used to, when you're doing something that you're not used to and you're starting a new project, a lot of times you're reading and following and trying to comprehend. And so whenever you're following those instructions with your hands, your attention is split. So you're not completely focused. You don't have 100% understanding for what you're doing. So whenever you're starting, that's going to look a little wonky, right? But then whenever you get into the pattern, you get into the groove of the pattern. Let's say you're making an Afghan, right? When you get to row 4 or 5, you're like, all right, I got this. So whenever you're starting out, it's going to look a little loose. It's going to look a little uneven because you're getting the hang of the pattern. But when you get the hang of the pattern, then your tension really evens out and it gets more uniform, right? So that's typically what happens to us. So how do you keep your tension consistent? It's a multitude of things. The more you crochet, the more even your tension is going to get. Think about what kind of project you're crocheting, and if there's anything new about it, new stitch, new pattern, new anything, before you just jump into the pattern, you might want to kind of practice some of those new elements. Like, oh, this uses a new stitch that I've never done before. Let me make a little swatch and let me kind of get the practice into this first, right? So I can really get the feel for that stitch. And then when I start to make my thing, I've already practiced. So now my stitch work is going to look more even and uniform on this finished project. And then whenever you put things down, right? So maybe you're in a groove and you're crocheting, you're having a great time, you got a snack, you're hydrated, you're watching your favorite show and everything's great. Your tension is going to be a specific thing. If you put that project down, you come back to it a couple days later and it's like it's night, it's at the end of the day, and maybe you're watching an investigation, discovery, murder mystery, and you're a little more tense, right? It's the end of the day, you're a little tired. Your stitch work is going to be a little more tight. So there's a lot of things that go into what your stitch tension is, and it could have everything to do with your mindset, with your body, with, whether or not you've worked this thing before. So there's a lot that goes into it. So I love telling these long rambling stories, but that's everything that I wanted to say about stitch tension and consistency, is that there's nothing you can really ever do to where everything that you ever crochet is going to be 100% even and uniform and beautiful and fantastic. Unless you crochet every single day and you crochet the exact same thing, then it's over time, that's going to look exactly the same. But if you're always crocheting different things and you don't crochet every day and it's always different, make some swatches, practice, and then just kind of give yourself some time and grace if you're feeling a little choppy, right? Okay. Okay, Ellen, I hope you enjoyed that answer. Let me know what you think. Okay, next question is from Sarah Jo. I love this question from Sarah Jo. She says, how do you go about getting your crochet work to be more recognized in the community? I'm going to make some assumptions here, and I'm going to answer a few different questions about that, okay? Because she's saying, how do you go about getting your crochet work to be more recognized in the community? Do you mean pattern work? Do you mean, like, are you writing patterns? Are you designing new things and you want that work to be recognized? Are you crocheting things and you want to sell those? So really, it kind of depends on what it is that you're making. So I want to be a little general with this, right? So I think that, and this is true for I don't care if you sell tires, or you crochet things, or you make ice cream. It doesn't matter what you do. I have the mindset that no matter what product or service you offer, it has to solve a problem for people. And if it solves a problem for people, then you'll be able to articulate how it can serve people, right? So you guys may be going, crochet doesn't solve problems, but it does. Crochet can solve lots of problems, right? If you're writing patterns, then the problems that you're solving are, what do I do with that yarn? How do I learn more stitches? What can I make for my friend's birthday? What kind of blanket can I make for my bed? People are looking for things to do and make with the resources that they have, or, just to kind of get some inspiration for what they want to make in their life. So if you're designing patterns, if you're making things to sell, think about who they're for and think about how this can solve a problem for them, how this can really fit a need for them. And as long as you're doing that, and as long as you can articulate what problems you're solving, then I think you're really going to speak to people and stand out in a community. You'll be able to be recognized in a community. I've seen it on both ends, as a consumer in the crochet world, and then also, as someone who offers consumables in the crochet world. And what I see on the end of, the individuals offering consumables, sometimes if you get caught up in, I just need to earn a paycheck, I just need to buy groceries this week, I just need to sell a pattern, I just need to sell a thing. If you're always just thinking about how can I make money and where's my next paycheck coming from, you may be creating things without any intention. You're like, well, if I just come up with a pattern every week, if I just sell one thing every week, here, buy it. Maybe it's on sale. You're thinking about how you're going to earn your next dollar, right? So that's really, it's hard to come across to your audience and say, guys, I just need to buy groceries. Just if 50 of you bought this pattern for $1, then I could buy groceries this week. Sometimes that's the mindset of people who sell. Again, in the crochet world, or if you sell tires, if you sell ice cream, that's their mindset. They're trying to earn that next paycheck. But if you put some intention behind what it is that you're doing, and let's talk about the crochet world. Let's kind of, focus in on maybe a pattern writer, right? Well, I design things that inspire me, that I want to use, that are filling needs for me. And I honestly try to think about them in that way. So for example, I saw a new yarn, Date Night, from Lion Brand Yarns. And I was like, I like that yarn. I want to buy that yarn. I'm interested in that yarn. And then I took a peek at that yarn and I was like, okay, it costs this much money. I can reasonably, I would buy this many to make something. And I feel like based on the feel of this yarn, it feels like it would make a nice poncho. And so that's what I did. I made a poncho with yarn that I liked. Look at this. Yarn that I liked. And, I made something that I would want to wear. I made something with yarn that I would spend money on reasonably. Like, would I spend this much on a poncho? Yeah, I would, because I like this yarn. I'm comfortable in it. This was fun to make. It was easy, right? So I'm solving those problems. I'm using a yarn that I like. I'm spending a reasonable amount of money, and it's new and different and interesting enough to where it's keeping my interest, right? It's interesting enough to keep my interest. So if those are solving problems for me and I'm articulating it that way, then other people may go, oh, that's really interesting, right? because price is never really the reason people buy or don't buy. It's not. Sometimes it is. But if price was the only reason people would buy, we would all only be shopping at Walmart. And we don't. So why is that? It's because we're looking for real solutions and we're looking for connection and community and things like that. So how do you go about getting your crochet work to be more recognized in the community? The whole reason I told you all of that is because whatever it is that you do, it has to solve a problem. And whatever problem you're trying to solve, you have to adequately articulate that. And when it actually solves problems for people, and when people are really connecting with whatever it is that you're doing, then that's how you gain an audience. That's how you get people to know you, to like you, to trust you, to recognize you, right? So that's what I think. That's how I conduct my business. And that's how I work to be recognized in my community. So I hope that whatever it is that you do, you can find ways to really connect with people, solve problems for people, and then you can be recognized in your community too. Anyway, let me know what you think, Sarah Jo. I hope you like that answer. Okay, and the last question that I see here, and after I read all the questions here, I'm going to come back because I see a lot of you guys are commenting here. So if anybody has any questions here while I'm rambling, let me know, and as long as I'm here live, I'll go ahead and answer them, okay? So the last question that I see here is from Melissa Weber, and she's got a really good question. She says, how can you make money with crochet? I love this question because I actually teach this, and I have an entire post about what I'm going to share with you, okay? So I'm pulling it up now because I didn't even read this before I came on. I was like, this is fun, let's go live. So there's quite a few ways you can reasonably earn money with crochet. And of course, my computer's being really slow, so it's not sharing any of those things with me right now. But I'm going to share with you how I've generated revenue, how I've started careers, and then I also have a course on each one of these things. So if you want to learn more and get my blueprint for how to earn revenue in the crochet world, then I will have that information for you. Okay, my computer's so slow, it's not even coming up. This is ridiculous. It's just stopped working. It's taken a nap now. So I'll get you that link in just a little bit. Okay, so the ways you can earn revenue. The suspense is killing you, isn't it? Where is it? Here it is. Okay. So I'm going to update, I'm going to drop a link in the comments so that way you guys can see, okay? So the 3 ways that I've generated revenue in the crochet world are, first and foremost, I started selling the things that I made, okay? So I would make crochet things and then I would sell them, right? So that's pretty easy. That's where most people start out, actually, whenever you think about, whenever you're like, I love crochet, it's what I do, and wouldn't it be awesome if this is my job? I feel like that's how most people start out in terms of career. But I will say I did a lot of things wrong and I actually wasted a lot of time and money, probably the first 6 months that I started doing that. Oh, there's so many things. There's so many questions and comments here. Okay. So, I do have a blueprint. I do have an outline to share because it's not just as simple as, well, I'm just going to make things and sell them, because there's a lot of questions in that, right? So if you want to, if you want it to be a business and you don't want to be burned out and you want to have some intention behind what it is that you're doing, then I think that it starts with a fair wage. How much do I want to make, right? How much do I want to make an hour? Put together a schedule, a time blocking schedule. That's what I did. And then have some kind of consistent resume. And so I'm just going to leave it at that. I'll share some more information with you guys if you want. But if you start out with that, I think that it's a recipe to build a successful business and generate some consistent revenue to where you're being very intentional with what your time is being spent towards, and you know exactly when you're generating revenue and on what, and you never feel like you're underselling yourself or you're working really hard and just kind of giving things away. So it is possible to have a pretty awesome career selling your finished projects. I did it successfully for a really long time, and I literally wrote a blueprint so that you can do the same if you want. So again, I'm going to share some of that information with you after this live. Okay, so that's the first crochet career. The second crochet career, and again, this is just from my own experience giving crochet lessons. So it's a little more complicated than just saying, I know how to crochet, I can crochet all the things, I'm going to teach you how to crochet. It's a little more complicated than that. As I learned the hard way, again, I've learned things the hard way for a number of years. Just because you are able to crochet and just because you can crochet anything, it doesn't mean that you have an effective lesson plan to where you can effectively teach others and pass on your knowledge in ways that they can be confident crocheters to where they're not relying on you. So I've got some advice here to share, and I have a blueprint and a class that you can take if you're interested, okay? So if you want to just find some more information, get my blueprint, get my lesson plan, all of that, again, I'm going to be sharing a link in the video description. All right, and the third way that I think that you can generate revenue with crochet, and I know it because I've done it, I know it because I'm doing it, writing crochet patterns. So there's a lot of advice in that, and I've kind of touched on some things a little bit here throughout this chat, but I think that when you want to have a successful career selling crochet patterns, it's not about quantity, it's about quality. So it does go back to solving problems, having a good product. Having a good product is solving problems. You don't want to create something that causes more problems for people. So it's all about education, not being copycat and, testing and all of that kind of stuff. So again, I'm going to share with you guys a link so you guys can get more information on all of that. Okay. Okay, and with that, those are the questions that were asked in my group this morning when I posted what questions you guys have about crochet. I will say thank you to Cindy G. There's this new thing that Facebook is doing. It's like you send stars. So this is new, and this is like I just started it because Facebook is like, do you want to do this? And I'm like, I don't know, I guess so, sure. So Cindy G just sent me some stars. Thank you, Cindy G. I just wanted to give you a shout out and say thank you so much. She sent me 150 stars. I don't really know what that means, but I know that it's a big deal and I really appreciate it. So thank you, Cindy G. Thank you, thank you. And if anybody else wants to send me stars, I will give you a shout out too. I really appreciate you. All right, so who else is here? What are you guys saying? Let me see if there's any questions. Ellen O'Connor is watching. Jeanette is watching. Terry Sullivan is watching. Rosetta says, nope. Rosetta says, where's Rosetta? You guys are awesome. All right, now a lot of you guys are sending stars. Thank you. Thank you to Martha Bryan for sending some stars. Thank you, Rafael Francis Rodriguez for sending stars. Thank you. That's so exciting. Stars. All right, now let me go through. I'm gonna give everybody who sends stars, I'm gonna give them an extra special shout out again in just a little bit. But I do want to go through and see if there's any questions here, and I want to make sure that I answer all of those. But man, that's a little hard to do on this tiny little phone. Gretchen Trumper, thank you so much for the stars. All right, now I've lost all comments. Where are they? This is impossible. I can't see any of your comments. Oh, lots of you guys are sending stars. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. You guys are awesome. Gretchen Trumper, she's the last one who sent stars. Thank you. All right, everybody who sends stars is getting extra special shout outs too, okay? But now I'd really like to get to your questions, so I'm gonna try to find them in the comments. Okay, here we go. Can I see all the, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. Come on, Facebook. You know what, Facebook? I just want to see comments. Diane Krause is here. She sent 150 stars. Thank you so much. I'm trying to answer your questions, guys, but it's a little difficult. Rosetta Williams. Hi, Salena. How can I crochet with a hurt shoulder? Ooh, okay. I am not a doctor or a lawyer or a chiropractor. So first I would say maybe consult all of them first, because I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the issue is. So I can't give you any advice, but what I will do is say, I hope your shoulder is better soon, and I hope it's not serious. Whenever I have some kind of stress or strain, I kink my neck, my shoulder hurts, my wrist hurts, my hands hurt. First and foremost, I have to listen to my body. I'm kind of crazy when it comes to hydration. I'm like, maybe I should just drink more water. So I drink an obscene amount of water sometimes, especially when, you know, there's anything like weird going on in my body, and it doesn't matter what it is. I'm like, I need more water. So I always try to stay hydrated. I try to stretch a lot. And I'm not always a proactive stretcher. Sometimes I'm like, I hurt, I should stretch. And then I do that. But especially pertaining to crochet, like if it's my arms or my neck or anything like that, I really try to take care of those parts of my body. So I take a lot of hot showers, hot baths. I do like heat wraps. I do cold wraps. I drink lots of water. I take vitamins. I have these little massage tools that look like claws, and I kind of massage my hands and my arms and my neck and stuff like that. So I try to do a lot of proactive things so that I don't feel hurt and get hurt. And I think that's all I can say to you right now, lady. So I don't know, and talk to your doctor and see what they say from there. I'm sorry, lady. Donna Lombardo is here watching. Terry Sullivan says hello to everyone from Staten Island. Chris Lopez is here. Hey, Chris Lopez, so good to see you. Let's see who else is here. Terry Sullivan is watching. Melissa McCormick is watching. Terry Sullivan, hello, hello. Let's see. Diane says hello from Texas. Sue is here watching. Amber Martin is here watching. She's my stunt double, my sister. Hey, Amber Martin, so good to see you. I miss you. Lucy is watching. Rosetta Williams is watching. Lots of people are watching. Sherry Richards, yes, time blocking. That was it. I'll have more to share on that. I have lots to share. Lots and lots to share about time blocking. Francis, question. Is there an easy technique to write patterns? I write each row as I go, but maybe math-wise I'm missing something about it. I don't know. I feel like I don't make sense to myself. Yeah, so I've got a lot of advice about that. So if you're interested in writing patterns, this is my advice from my perception based on my experience. And I've literally written a blueprint on how to write patterns. And it all starts with, you have to be the best crocheter you can possibly be. You have to really educate yourself in terms of what crochet is, how it works. Crochet makes sense to me because it is math. Everything about crochet is math. It's numbers, and those numbers have to make sense. They either instructions have to equal each other, or you're increasing or you're decreasing. So everything about crochet is math, and especially as a pattern writer, you really have to understand that. So I do suggest taking a program like the Learning Path at the American Crochet Association. It's something that I developed specifically for things like this, just to become a better crocheter, or maybe you want to turn it into some kind of career. So if you have the creative mindset that you want to create crochet patterns, I love that. And that's where it starts, that ingenuity, right? But if you don't understand the template and the uniformity and the math, and you don't understand the complexities of crochet itself, then it's really going to be very difficult to maybe expand your imagination in terms of crochet to understand how things can be created. It's also going to be really difficult to write those instructions in a way that a universal audience can understand. So I would say it starts with education. Yes, it is math. It is how you write things. Because again, you can crochet anything. Crocheters are amazing that way. You can look at something and figure it out and make it. But how do you articulate what it is that you're doing in a uniform, universal way? Because what you don't want to do, speaking from personal experience, you don't want to say, well, this is just what I do, and I just write everything out, and every pattern that I have is 20 pages, and there's pictures and stuff like that. it's not a recipe for long-term success. So really understanding the universal language of crochet, it's really going to help you to use less words, less, if any, pictures, no pictures. You're not going to have to make videos. You're not going to have to do things like that because the language that you're using is universal and it's precise, and you are using math. And that way it doesn't matter if a beginner crocheter or an experienced crocheter is following your work, they're going to understand exactly what you mean, because it's a great thing to have a global audience, people from all over the world following your work, right? That's fantastic. But what's not fantastic is getting emails every single day, or people getting frustrated and being mad at you every single day because maybe you're writing in a way that makes sense to you, but it's not in a way that makes sense to a global audience. So I love that question. Definitely get as much crochet education as you possibly can. I suggest the Learning Path at the American Crochet Association. I specifically built that so that you can understand the spectrum of crochet knowledge, not only to build your own skill, but to build your ability, especially if you want to write patterns or anything like that. So what do you think about that? I hope you enjoy that answer. Sue, she says, and this is pertaining to something else that I said, because I've been rambling for a while. Sue says, also depends on whether you are a morning person or a night owl to get your best productivity. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, back to talking about time blocking and how to utilize your time. Again, everybody has the same 24 hours in a day. Maybe, you know, so whatever you do with your time, I'm not going to say, if you want to get the best, you know, the best use of your time for crochet, you have to get up at 6, and then you crochet from 6 to 7, and then you shower from 7 to 7:20. There's no, you can't put together a schedule. You have to understand what's important to you. And so based on the 24 hours you have in a day, based on the 7 days you have in a week, that's your template. So really it's just about prioritizing what you need to do, what you want to do, what you have to do, and then blocking out certain periods of time so that way you can do what you need to do, what you want to do, what you have to do. And all of those things are going to be meaningful and purposeful. So if you want to crochet from 2 in the morning to 5 in the morning because for whatever reason, that's your schedule, that's on you, and you are in control of it. That's what it's about. I think it's about being proactive with your time and not having to be reactive. Right? I don't like having to be reactive. So anytime I can create time for myself and meaning, I'll do that. All right, let's see what other questions you guys have here. Questions, comments, feedback. Let's see what it is. Thanks again to everybody who has been sending stars. I see them coming up and it's just bringing me so much joy. I can't wait to find out more about that. So I'll continue to give extra special shout outs to everybody who does that. All right, Michelle says, hi, Salena, great to see you. Sorry it's been a while. I've missed you, lady. Thank you for being here. Daisy Walmack is here watching. Hello, so good to see you. Evelyn is here watching. She says hi. All right, I'm specifically looking for questions right now. Hello, Martha, good to see you. Hello, Janetta from Alabama. Evelyn is here. She says, hi. I noticed when I buy yellow yarn, it seems to be thinner than red or blue yarn. I bought Impeccable and Butterscotch and Claret. Claret? I don't know if I'm saying that right. C-L-A-R-E-T. Let me know. Is the T silent? I don't know. The yellow feels like a 3-weight and the Claret is more of a 4-weight. I noticed in the label they both say 4, but the hook size is different for each color. What do I do if I'm using both in a pattern? Ooh, that's an interesting question. You know what? I've noticed that too. And I feel like even if a yarn line is the exact same yarn, you know, like you mentioned that particular yarn line, and you're saying, I'm buying solid colors, but this color feels different than that color. Sometimes, and you know, it's yarn. So sometimes, you know, even though it's commercially produced, a different color could, you know, a different color sometimes feels like it makes the yarn feel different, thinner or thicker, things like that. I've noticed that too. So really it depends on your pattern. Is your pattern size specific and is it making a huge difference? If it is, then maybe there are things you can do to make accommodations so that the yarns will match better. But if you're finding that you just can't do that, you might have to change your hook size or, you know, something like that. You might have to do something like that. I have noticed that in yarn though, is that, you know, sometimes solids work up different than the multicolor, even though it's the same yarn. So it's just something that, you know, anytime you're working with a new yarn or before you start a new project, I'm going to sound like a broken record, kind of use that yarn and swatch a little bit, just see how it works up, see how it feels. And another reason I do that is I may feel like I want to use this yarn for a project, right? But then I'm like, I don't like this yarn for whatever reason. I don't like the way it feels. I don't like the way it works up. I don't like the way that this particular yarn looks with the stitch that I'm using. You know, I don't like the fabric that it's making. So sometimes just trying that yarn on a smaller scale, I'm not committing it to the project. So if there's something that I need to change, like this color works up differently than that color, I can make those alterations in my small swatch. And that way, if I decide to use those for whatever project I'm making, I've already worked out those kinks. So hopefully that will give you a little bit of help whenever you're crocheting. Delia, she says, Salena, how do I crochet a gauge swatch when the pattern only gives dimensions? For example, when the pattern is a repeat. Yeah, so whenever you're asked to make a gauge swatch or whenever you want to make a swatch, you're literally swatching up the same yarn, the same hook, the same stitch pattern, right? So even if this pattern, like let's say this date night poncho right here, shameless shout out to the date night poncho on Salena Baca Crochet's pattern store. This pattern, you know, it might tell you to, you know, hey, this is the gauge. These are these over 4 inches. This is how many stitches there are. Over 4 inches. This is how many rows there are. So it's giving you a gauge, right? So I've measured out 4 inches. I've measured out 4 inches for stitches and rows, right? But it's not telling you make a swatch, chain this many, do this thing to make this particular swatch, right? Because the truth is you don't always have to swatch for gauge all the time. It's something that you're going to do on your own to try to, you know, meet the stitch and the row repeat, right? To try to see if your yarn works, you know, all of those things that I keep talking about. So if a pattern doesn't tell you, really you're just taking a small scale of whatever the pattern is, whatever has the most real estate in terms of pattern, right? Wherever the size or dimension or shape or feel is really coming from, that's what you're going to make a swatch of. So sometimes it's not apparent. It's, you know, it's not telling you to create a swatch, chain 27, even though this is chain 143. It's not going to tell you that. So you're just taking a small scale of the pattern stitch repeat and you're creating that on a small scale to test out, am I using the right yarn? Is my tension matching? Do I like this yarn? How do I like this color with this pattern? Is it too big? Is it too small? You're working out all of those kinks in advance. But you're right, a pattern is not always going to tell you this is exactly how you make a swatch for this particular pattern. Martha Bryan, she says, I am making a mitered granny. Is there a certain join to make it look 3D? To make it look 3D. I wonder, I'm not sure what you mean exactly. Are you following a pattern to make a mitered granny square? If so, you just follow the pattern, whatever it tells you to do. But if you're, I don't know about a certain join to make it look 3D. I don't know if you mean, is there a stitch you can use? Because there's lots of stitches that will give it a pop, that pop out, that, you know, kind of pop out aspects to make it look 3D. There's lots of different techniques and variations. So I'm not sure how much to tell you on that, but are there joins that will hide your work? Yes? So I'm not sure. Maybe you might want to ask that question in a different way. Maybe I'm just not understanding. Janetta, she says, I just got on the live and you may have already covered this, but how do you charge for your items? Do you charge by the amount of time or the cost of the yarn or both? I love this question. Okay. Again, when I was talking about my top three crochet careers, you know, how do you earn money in crochet? And I told you guys, here are 3 ways you can earn money. So I have another post that I want to share with you guys. I'm going to leave it in the comments. I have a lot of strong opinions about how to charge. And I have a very specific formula. And it starts with how much money do I want to earn an hour? And again, that's a whole mindset training, right? Because a lot of people are like, nobody's going to, if I went and got a job somewhere, it would be $10 an hour. Nobody's going to pay me $10 an hour to crochet. You need to pay yourself a fair wage. If this is your job, right? This is your skill. This is your time. You're using your hands. You start with how much money you want to or have to earn an hour. Maybe you're like, I want crochet to be my career. This is, I can only crochet 4 hours a day. I have to earn, $40 a day if I'm going to be doing this. Therefore, I'm going to charge at least $10 an hour. So I always start with that. And when I start with that, then it allows me to add in all those other variations of how much do materials cost, add that in extra. How much, are there any other fees associated with this? Add that in extra. Are there shipping costs? Any additional fee should be on top of how much money do I want to earn an hour. I actually created a pricing calculator that goes over all of this. So you just type in your different things and you can play around with it. I'm going to share that in the comments as well. And it's included in a post that I wrote, 3 simple steps to price any crochet work. Okay. So I'm going to be sharing some really good resources with you guys. And that's one of them. So how do I charge? I start by assuring that I at least make a certain dollar amount every hour. That's what I do. And then everything else is on top of that. So what I want you to do is just get comfortable with that. And that way you don't get sticker shock, because I don't want you to, somebody says, hey, can you make me an Afghan? And you go, yeah, I love making Afghans. I make them all the time. I make them every week. And then when you start going, I want to earn $10 an hour. It took me 8 hours to make. The yarn is $20. I don't want you to go, oh, it's over $100. Nobody's going to pay me for that. Get out of that mindset. So I've got a whole mindset behind why you should charge the way that I tell you. And I hope you guys dig. All right. Who else is here? What are you guys saying? What questions do you have? I'm trying to find all of your comments, but Facebook is super duper weird. And so it's a little difficult to see all of them. A little difficult. Hold on. I'm trying to find the last question that I just answered. And I see more people are sending stars. So I'm going to be giving more shout outs in just a minute. Thanks to everybody sending stars. Stars is a new thing that Facebook is doing for creators such as myself. So if you want some extra special recognition, you want to support my work, I'm pretty sure that that's what those stars are doing. So anybody who sends stars, I would greatly appreciate it. I'll give you all the love and shout outs. Hello, Dawn. So good to see you here. Gretchen, good to see you. Delia is here. Linda Williams is watching. Sue Morgan is sending something, a link. I'll have to check that out later. Diane is watching. Aurora, hello. So good to see you. Hetty Sanchez is here. Linda Williams, Terry Sullivan, Sherry Richards. She says, love all of the courses and workshops at the American Crochet Association. Thanks, lady. I'm so glad you do. I know you're one of our best students. Valerie is watching. Dawn Castillo says, I wanted to let you know I really love the ACA learning path and all the courses I have taken through the ACA. I have become a much better crocheter and pattern writer. Thank you. And that's my goal. I really just want to share what has worked for me, how I started my careers, how I gained my knowledge and resources and information. I'm just passing that on in ways that hopefully other crocheters can have an easier path to either mastering crochet or starting some kind of career. So I'm so glad that you found it helpful, Dawn. Thank you so much for sharing. All right, Bridget is here. She says, I'm a newbie. Great information. Francis says, thanks, Salena. Yes, total sense. I got to sign up for your training class. Yes, sign up at the American Crochet Association. You can find all my courses, workshop resources, everything over there. So yes, I'd love to see you over there. Sherry says, you will not be disappointed. Thank you, Sherry. All right, I'm still looking for questions so I can answer any questions here on the live. Evelyn says, thanks for answering my question. My pleasure. My pleasure. Hello, Michelle Martin McKellen. Good to see you here. Delia. Lisa is here. Gosh, thank you guys so much for all. Michelle Martin McClellan sent 150 stars. Thank you so much, Michelle. I hope you're enjoying this chat, and I really appreciate your support. Thank you so much. Martha's watching. Evelyn is watching. Janetta, she says, thanks, Salena, for answering my question. Michelle Martin, she says, I caught you late, but I'm glad to see you as always. Thank you so much for your support. I appreciate you. Hello, Terry Sampson. Hello, Jerry Sue Osborne. Hello, Rosetta. All right, did I answer everyone's questions? I don't see any other questions here. So this is your last chance to ask any questions you guys might have about crochet. I'm here answering all of them. All right, so I don't see any other ones. That might be it. So I'm going to give a shout out to everybody who sent stars. Cindy Gunkel. I'm so sorry if I'm saying that incorrectly. Cindy Gunkel sent 150 stars. Cindy, thank you so much for your support. Francis Rodriguez sent 150 stars. Francis, I really appreciate your support. Thank you so much for sending that. Martha Schauger Bryan sent 150 stars. Lady, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Gretchen Thumper sent 150 stars. Thank you, Gretchen. I really appreciate your support. Diane Kraus sent 150 stars. Diane, thank you so much. I appreciate you. And the last person that I see that sent stars is Michelle Martin McClellan. She sent 150 stars. So thank you guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Aw, my first stars, and I got so many of them. Thank you guys. That was awesome. All right, so the last comments that I see are from Chris Lopez. She says, very informative, as always. I hope you enjoyed it. Cindy, she says, you said Gunkel correctly. Love your lives. Oh, good. I'm so glad I said it. Rosetta Williams, thanks, Salena. I can only see the doctor over the phone. Next appointment is Wednesday. Oh, I hope you get your shoulder sorted. Without knowing, I wish I was a doctor and could give you all the advice, but I'm not, and I just can't. But I hope you can get some good advice and get well very, very soon. All right, the last comment that I see is from my girl, Jerry Sue Tinker Osborne, so I will leave it at that. Guys, I love these threads. I love starting conversations like this. I don't know everything. I am not an expert on all the things yarn and crochet, but I really love having conversations like this because it makes me think, it makes me research, and I really love sharing what has worked for me, or at least telling you guys all my horror stories of the things that just haven't worked for me. So I appreciate this conversation. It's always fun to connect and just chat with you guys. And I do have a few resources I'm going to follow up and post in the comments, so be sure to check those out. One of them, here, I'm going to share it in the comments right now. One of the comments was, can you make money with crochet? Yes, I did it. I'm doing it. I wrote the book on it. I want to share it with you guys. I have classes on it. So the first thing that I'm going to share with you guys is 3 top crochet careers and how you can start one today. So go read that. Tell me what you think. If you have any questions, just let me know, okay? So another resource I want to share with you guys, somebody else asked, how do you know how to price your work? Again, I did all the wrong things. I didn't make money. I wasted a lot of time. I did a lot of things wrong. But now I have a pricing formula, and you can price anything in crochet. I don't care what it is. I don't care how long it takes you. I don't care if you're using, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what resources you're using. It doesn't matter how much time. So go and check out that post, 3 simple steps to price any crochet project, because within that post, there is a pricing calculator. I made it. I was so proud of myself because I'm not techie, but I really wanted there to be like a simple way that you could just type in a number, and go, oh, that's how much I should charge. So there is a pricing calculator for crochet that I made myself with my 2 hands and my brain. And it works. It's really cool. So at the very least, go check out my pricing calculator because I think it's cool. And I was really proud of myself that I did it. Okay, any other resources that I should share with you guys? I feel like the last resource I want to share with you guys, a lot of you were asking about like, how do I write better? How do I write patterns? How do I, you know, what does that process look like? The reason I'm going to share the American Crochet Association Learning Path is because it's like getting your associate's degree in crochet, right? So it's like doing that because, you know, really because we crochet and we're like, I can crochet whatever I want. I know what I know. Sometimes we don't know what we don't know. And, you know, I'm saying that from experience. So just going through a progressive crochet education, like the learning path, it really fills in a lot of gaps. It helps you to feel like you're really understanding and have a better understanding for the level of knowledge that you do have, but it also fills in any learning gaps that you might have. And that way, no matter what you want to do in crochet, whether it be write patterns, teach, sell finished items, or you just want to be the best crocheter that you can be and crochet anything that you want, you have the knowledge and skill and ability to be able to do that effectively. So there is that. Okay, so with that, I'm going to share, my computer's so slow. I'm going to share the American Crochet Association and the Learning Path, and that way you guys can click on over, check it out, you know, maybe take a class, take a workshop, ask me any questions that you guys may have. Let me know what you think. All right, I'm posting that now because my computer's slow. Ooh, Michelle Martin McClellan says, make it an app. Possibly, but I already have a school, and the school, you can get my school on an app. So I already have an app for my school. So if you're a member of the American Crochet Association and you join the school, then you can get the pricing calculator as an app. So that's pretty cool. I'd love to hear what you think. I'd love to hear it. Okay, sometimes I sing. All right, guys, so I'm posting all the links in the comments. Go check them out. If you guys have any other questions, you guys just let me know, okay? Because I love to have these conversations, and I've missed them. All right, again, to everybody who sent stars, thank you guys. I appreciate it. It means a lot. I hope you found this conversation fun. Hope you found it interesting, and I hope you learned something, okay? All right, everybody, peace, love, crochet. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all of your questions. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.